Officer Parker has seen a lot of situations in his years on the job, or so he thought. But when he pulled over a speeding car one quiet night, he had no idea what was about to happen. When the driver rolled down his window, the words that came out of his mouth left Parker speechless, completely stunned. Hello everyone, welcome to Stories to Heal. Today I am happy to share a new story with you. Don't forget to subscribe and watch to the end. The night sky was covered in a thin mist, shrouding a small town in silence. Officer Parker, a 35-year-old police officer with over a decade of experience, was walking the streets of the town as usual. It was a quiet day, with no major incidents requiring special attention. Parker enjoyed the peaceful atmosphere as he thought about his family at home. He envisioned moments with his children before bed and small talk with his wife while sipping warm tea. Parker was always known as a dedicated police officer. He grew up hearing stories of the heroism of his grandfather, a legendary police officer who was respected by the community. As a child, Parker dreamed of carrying on his family's tradition, and over the years he became a respected figure in his town. Parker not only provided security, but also developed a close relationship with the community. But even though Parker was used to handling a variety of cases, this night would be one of the most memorable moments of his career. As he crossed the town's main street, a silver car suddenly sped past, exceeding the speed limit. Parker immediately checked his speed radar and saw a reading of 70 miles per hour, well over the 40 miles per hour limit. He quickly turned on his siren and began chasing the car. The car did not stop immediately, which made Parker even more suspicious. 2 minutes later, however, the car finally pulled over to the side of a quiet street. Parker turned off the siren, ran the car's license plate, and found that the vehicle had no prior violations. With calm steps, Parker got out of his patrol car. He gently tapped on the car's window. When the window was lowered, Parker found a young woman behind the wheel, looking nervous. The woman looked nervous, her hands shaking as she handed over her driver's license and registration. "Good evening, ma'am," Parker said politely. "Are you aware that you are exceeding the speed limit?" The woman, identified as Susan from the documents Parker had reviewed, immediately apologized. "I'm sorry, sir. I didn't realize I was speeding," she said in a shaky voice. But Parker could sense that this was more than just a traffic violation. His eyes caught the obvious concern on Susan's face. "Is there an emergency?" she asked quietly. Susan tried to look away from Parker's gaze. "No, there isn't," she said nervously, but the tone of her voice suggested that she was hiding something. Parker didn't give up. "Ma'am, there's usually a good reason for someone to break the speed limit like that. If you want, I'm here to help." Hearing Parker's sympathetic tone, Susan finally broke down. Tears began to flow freely. "It's my mother," she choked out. "She's in danger." Parker was shocked. "What kind of danger? Tell me more," he urged, in a broken voice. Susan explained that her mother had called a few minutes earlier to say that her stepfather was beating her. Susan, who had witnessed the violence since she was a child, could no longer stand it and decided to go save her mother. "My mother has suffered for too long," Susan continued, sobbing. "She's been abused since I was 10 years old. I can't stay silent." Parker felt both sympathy and concern. He knew this was a dangerous situation, and he could not leave her alone. "Madam, you cannot face this alone. This is my job as a lawman. Let me help you." Susan, hesitant at first, finally agreed. "Okay, but please make sure he never hurts my mother again," she begged hopefully. Parker turned on the siren again and followed Susan's car to her mother's house. The road was quiet that night, so the trip went quickly. A few minutes later, they arrived at a small, deserted house. Susan got out of the car quickly. When the door opened, her mother appeared in the doorway with a small smile, even though her face was covered with bruises. "Good evening, ma'am. What happened?" Parker asked politely. Susan's mother tried to hide the truth. "Oh, it's nothing, sir. I just fell out of bed," she said with a stiff smile. But Susan could not control her emotions. "Ma'am, stop lying. Let the police help us," she said, crying. After a few minutes of coaxing, Susan's mother finally confessed. With tears streaming down her face, she said her husband often beat her. "But he's not a bad man," she said. "He just can't control his anger." Parker listened intently to her confession. "Ma'am, I need to go in and make sure everything is safe," he said. When Parker entered the house, he found the living room in disarray. In the corner of the room, Susan's stepfather stood with an angry face. Parker wasted no time. He quickly cuffed the man and read him his rights. "As of now, you are under arrest. Anything you say can be used in a court of law," Parker said. As the man was led to the patrol car, Susan hugged her mother tightly. They cried together, but this time the tears were the beginning of freedom. "Mom, everything's going to be okay now. We don't have to live in fear anymore," Susan said, her voice shaking. 2 months after this life-changing event, Parker received an unexpected surprise at work. A large, beautiful basket of flowers was delivered to his desk, accompanied by a small, simple, but meaningful card. When Parker opened the card, he read the heartfelt message. "Dear Officer Parker, you saved my life. Because of your actions, my mother and I can now live our lives without the fear that has haunted us for so long. As an expression of my deep gratitude, I wanted to give you this small gift. Please use it in a way that brings you joy. Thank you, Susan and Mom." Curious, Parker opened the basket. Inside, he found a small box that turned out to be a beautiful and stunning diamond bracelet. Surprised by the gift, Parker decided to take the bracelet to a jewelry store to confirm its value. When he was told that the bracelet was worth a lot, he felt the need to find out more before accepting the gift. Feeling bad, Parker decided to find Susan and her mother. After searching, he managed to meet with them to get some clarity. During the meeting, Susan and her mother explained that the bracelet was their family heirloom, but it had lost its emotional meaning. This bracelet used to be a symbol of a dark and painful past, Susan's mother said with relief. But now we want it to be a symbol of a new beginning, a better life, and freedom from the shadows of the past. After listening to her explanations and understanding the situation he was facing, Parker finally made the decision to sell the bracelet. It was not an easy decision to make, but Parker felt confident that it was the best step he could take to provide a greater good. The money from the sale of the bracelet was not spent carelessly. Parker spent it wisely, deciding to use some of the money to support his own family, who also needed attention and support. However, he decided to donate the majority of the money to a foundation that specifically helps victims of domestic violence. In this way, the money could be used to give new hope and concrete help to people in need, just as Susan and her mother had experienced. This story is not just about law enforcement or simply solving a case. More than that, it is a story about human values, about how small actions, done with sincerity and empathy, can have a big impact on the lives of others. In carrying out his duties as a law enforcement officer, Parker not only protects the community, but also becomes a symbol of hope for those who live in darkness and helplessness. For Susan and her mother, a night that was so frightening and full of uncertainty turned into a turning point that brought new hope. Their lives are now filled with peace and the belief that happiness is still possible, thanks to Parker's courage and kindness in giving them a chance to start over. Like this story? Click like and subscribe for more stories, and share your thoughts with a word in the comment section.